Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Big news, I just turned 30 last week. Yay! I thought, you know what, it would be a pretty good time to reflect back on my 20s and share with you guys some of the lessons that I have learned. People say that 20s is for figuring things out, but when I actually turned 30 last week, I realized a lot of that advice is actually wrong. So here are the lessons that I have learned in my 20s that I want to share with you guys. I think looking back at my life, one thing that I did really well is trying as many things as possible. For those of you that don't know me, I actually started off as a media student, learning about filmmaking and editing. I went on to do a master's about interactive arts, where I learned about the combination of technology and arts. Now, after graduating, I became a business consultant at one of the top consulting firms working in Hong Kong. And if you're like, what? That's impossible. How did you make so many career pivots? That's the thing. You never know unless you try it. I'm always a glass half full kind of person. If I see an opportunity, I always go for it. And if I get rejected, I get rejected. You know, that's okay. But I never reject myself before I try it out. By the way, if you're actually interested in the story of how I became a business consultant coming from an art background, let me know in the comments and I'll make a video about it. Whenever I think I want to do something, I just go for it. I never deny myself the opportunity. And if I actually had a preconception that I would never be admitted into my current firm because I'm an art student, I never would have had applied to the job. And I never knew Cantonese before I moved to Hong Kong. If I had actually thought I would never be able to understand what they say in Cantonese, I never would have had the guts to move to Hong Kong. Sometimes life opens a lot of doors to new opportunities to you. But if you had rejected yourself before even entering those doors, you're really missing out on a lot of things. Your life could have been a lot more different. And this leads me to my second lesson. That is, don't be constrained by your perceived identity. If I had only perceived myself as a creative person, I would really be missing out on the opportunities to discover more of my business potential. It was only after I started working in business that I actually realized I'm not just a creative person. My logical reasoning is also pretty strong. And these are the things that I never would have had figured out by myself if I had worked in just the creative sector. You gotta believe that you have the potential to do anything that you desire. And your thoughts will become the reality, whether you think you can do it or not. You know what's crazy? When I actually look back at my past, I think I was able to achieve everything that I desired to do. And I hope that this would work for you as well. You know what's interesting? I was reading this book, Quit, the other day, and there was one example in the book that really stuck with me. The book actually talked about two contrasting examples, Sears and Phillips. One actually stayed true to their identity and eventually went broke, and the other one thrived because they didn't get constrained by their identity. Let me tell you the story. Sears was originally a retail company, and they launched the Discover card in 1985, which quickly became one of the most successful business cards in the US. Ironically, while the Discover card thrived, Sears' retail businesses was actually in decline. However, because their leadership decided that we are a retail company at core, they eventually sold off their Discover card business to focus on their struggling retail businesses. Eventually, Sears' retail businesses collapsed into bankruptcy, while the Discover cards went on to become a Fortune 500 financial services company. Philips, on the other hand, they began as a lighting company selling bulbs and illumination. Instead of being confined by that original identity, they decided to venture off into a bigger world. By the 20th century, it actually diversified its businesses into electronics, semiconductor, healthcare technology, and consumer products. They didn't discard their origins, but they allowed their identity to expand. I think the principle doesn't just apply to companies, the same goes for individuals. If you really want to expand your potential, you really gotta go out of your comfort zone and let go of your old identities. Let your identities grow and expand into something bigger. And the third lesson that I learned in my 20s was growth is uncomfortable, and you need to allow yourself to be uncomfortable to be able to grow and learn. I think realized this a little while ago that I am a lot more persistent than I used to be in my 20s. I think in my 20s, I liked the things that I was good at because they felt easy. Things that would take others like hours to do would only take me maybe like 10 minutes. I would feel good about myself for this because it was my comfort zone. The thing is, your talents can only get to a certain point, and without persistence and the effort to actually keep pushing through, I'll just be stuck at the level that I was initially at. despite I was maybe a little better than others. And this made me reflect back at when I first started my career in business a few years ago. I was pretty good at analyzing the numbers, like trying to find the outliers in a big set of data. The issue is I didn't know how to visually present my findings. So one of the managers actually pointed this out. One of my weaknesses was to synthesize this information and frame it in a logical storyline. I remember being quite frustrated back then. I made many slides from when I first entered this company till now. I don't think anything changed drastically. It was just through repeated effort that I eventually gained the skills. It was a pretty painful experience when I reflect back on it. But you know what's interesting is now I'm working on a project with that manager again. She was pretty amazed by how fast I grew in my storytelling and presentation skills. I was actually thinking pretty hard on what I did right, and I realized there's no secret. The only thing that I did right was, despite being uncomfortable, I just decided to put aside this discomfort. Instead, I decided to focus on the process. I think I've gained so much progress to the point where whenever I'm doing a presentation now, sometimes my brain just automatically pops up ideas about how to present it. Ideas just come to me. If I had learned one thing from this experience, is that next time I feel something is difficult, I would stick with it a little longer. I would frame it as a challenge rather than a failure. Because challenge is a process where you keep trying things, you keep gaining experiences, you keep getting better. A failure is actually a fixed state where you're just stuck with the results and you just end up with this frustration. One thing that made me realize I've become a lot more consistent than I was before was through content creation, actually. I've always thought about making some YouTube videos before, but I never actually set out to do it. But last year, I decided to actually try things out on the side. Despite how busy my full-time job is as a business consultant, sometimes I would work through the weekends and work really late till the night, but I still have been making contents consistently. I think if I had started out this journey as a content creator a few years ago, I don't think I would be able to stuck with it for so long. I would literally just give things up if things are difficult. Life is never the way you want it to be. You're like this master architecture behind your life. You just gotta carefully construct things around to make some room for the important things towards your goals. And the final lesson that I want to tell myself is life is a marathon. Don't burn yourself out. When I first started out my career in business, I thought because I came from a non-business background, I wanted to really work hard, I guess at least catch up with others. So I would always work on the weekends. I also started my side project being a content creator because I still want to pursue my creative side. And sometimes I try to put so much pressure on myself by trying to fit in like 10 things to do in a day over the weekend. And this has eventually taken a toll on my mental health, saying I would feel burnt out and just stop doing the things altogether for a very long time. Had I given myself a little less to do, but I do it consistently every single day, rather than just doing a lot of things in a short period and feeling completely burnt out and stop things altogether for a very long time, I probably would have done more by doing things a little less, but more consistently. I guess I had this mentality of trying to stuff everything in a short period of time, trying to do as many things as possible, was because I viewed being 30 as the destination. And I wanted to be ahead of everybody. But when I actually turned 30, I finally realized this is not the final stop. Life continues. There are still years ahead of me. As I had this perception that I need to be a certain state when I turn 30, rather than viewing life as a continuous development. So I guess I want to finish off this video with the intention to take away from some of the pressure that you guys might have about being 30. It's okay if you're not what you thought you would be when you turn 30. I don't think my 30 is what I thought my 30 would be back then. But I think it's actually more interesting, more fun, and I think there's actually a world of new possibilities, things that you never would have imagined when you were in your 20s, are waiting for you when you turn 30. I hope these lessons will actually help reshape how you view your 20s and how you view turning 30. And happy birthday to me! And until next time, bye!